support for the Untold Radio Network family of shows and join in on the conversation by using super stickers and super chats on YouTube. Got a question you want answered? Ask it live via a super chat and get real-time responses from our show's knowledgeable hosts and guests. Help keep the Untold Radio Network shows running strong. We need your support. Send your super chats and stickers now.
Hello, world, and welcome to Untold Radio's Down South Anomalies. My name's Jay Katz.
And I'm Aspasia.
And this is an incredible episode number 74, Paranormal Child's Play.
Yes.
Now, we have to say, as we do every week, that we're broadcasting on stolen land, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We wish to pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Now, we have had one of those weeks, ladies and gentlemen. I guess.
Well, we've never had a week like this, but yeah, anyway.
We lost a very loved member of our family, the third wheel in our archives in Sydney. Yeah. And he was our incredible companion for 19 years.
The archives?
There's our archives. Now, we had someone in here for 19 years suffering hostage syndrome. They were a house cat.
We were the hostages.
And his name
is Anton.
The beautiful
Anton. That was the screamer that used to occasionally hear screaming in the background for us.
Now, Anton distinctly had 9 lives. He had many moments during the pandemic when we thought we were going to lose him.
Yes.
He had many moments where he wasn't well, and that's why we let him scream in our podcast.
He was, he was getting on. He was, what was he when it started? He was about 17.
That's right.
17. So he was already over, Seal Point Siamese or Siamese cats are supposed to live around about 15 years of age. So he was starting to get, he was over the line.
Yeah. So we want to dedicate this show to him.
We do.
But also, it's really, I feel for anyone that's lost anyone. We've got a family member that's not well at the moment, and it's very agonizing to live through that stuff. But you don't realize the toll. I am shocked at how devastated I am and how much I cannot get him out of my head.
Well, it's only been, 3 days. It's only been 3 days, so it's still really fresh.
So loved.
Yeah.
So loved and such an extraordinary companion. And it makes me really, ponder about, humanity and how can a wild animal that's fighting everything that's hardwired in its DNA
and its nature
actually become so affectionate and become part of you. And also that incredible ability to communicate with something without language. It's all just based on emotions and trust.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm sure, if we put that onus behind all our research, we'd probably come up with better results.
So we kind of felt we just went, I don't know if we can do an interview this week.
Yeah. And look, we put John, the wrenchman, on the back handle. We will get to you, John, probably next week.
Absolutely.
When we start to actually do an investigation into the people that have supported Untold Radio and especially our program Down South Anomalies. And we get a few of them on and investigate what it is that brought them to look at the parallel side of reality.
Absolutely.
So we thought we'd do a lighter episode based primarily on our timeline as baby boomers and the things that affected us. And the notion that there was, when we were born, me in the late 50s, you in the 1960s.
1960, yeah.
The whole notion of the paranormal was literally commonplace.
It was. It wasn't.
And it became part of.
As divisive as it is now.
As polarizing and as, the fight of good versus evil.
Yeah.
Those things weren't, I was shocked that we actually had an Ouija board in the house. And I think it was the original box
didn't.
art
Yeah.
that scared the hell out of me.
Mhm.
You didn't have one because
No, we
you're
didn't.
in a traditional Greek family. You're
Yeah.
already highly aware
My
of what the
dad
trouble that board could bring.
Well, it's really weird because in the investigation of it, we found, you know, which yes, that's the cats playing a Ouija. But in the investigation of it, we found that Ouija boards were not considered evil
No. And
until you know the movies, Hollywood got hold of it. It's in particular The Exorcist in 1974. So
Freakin's The Exorcist.
yes, so after that, it was then considered to be an evil or a door opener to who knows what. And but I've always had a bit of a, because you don't really know what you're opening up. You have no clue. You don't even know if there is anything there. But if there is, then should you be doing that? So I don't know. That's just my take on it. But I know kids used to play it all the time, and I would nobody ever really told me not to when I was young, but I just kind of knew to steer clear of that.
I think the notion of being able to focus on this latent ability that reality denies that we have, and the board was, again, one of those symbols where you could actually focus.
Yes.
But this board literally goes back to spirit writing.
Yes, it does.
Automatic writing. And that can actually be taken way back.
1880s.
Well, it can go
Even
back
further?
as far as the 11th century
Oh,
AD.
right. Yes.
And the Song Dynasty there in China, and they were doing a lot of automatic writing back then.
They were.
So, I mean, before that notion of you're actually channeling something, and so the planchette, which is the triangular device that hovers over the board, was actually used initially for spirit writing. It had a hole at the very tip of it, the top of that triangle, and a pen was inserted in there.
Yes.
And so your hands would sit on that, and that pen would actually scribe.
Yeah. So we're not just doing the Ouija board. This is board games with a paranormal aspect to it.
Yeah, and it's a potted history. There's nothing incredibly specific about it.
Yeah.
I mean, look at how this is a normal Rockwell cover for the Saturday Evening Post. And look, if you're listening to us on the audio, yet again, we're highly visual. And so please go to YouTube if you do get a chance and have a look at this. You can have a look at all this stuff. They were so ubiquitous here, you would never see that today. The cover of like a well-known magazine or newspaper would just have a couple lovingly sitting together. But as you can see from this classic Norman Rockwell image, the spirit board was also like a dating game. Yeah, it was. Because you popped it onto your knees and you sat very close to your partner and your hands together. So, it was a great first date warm-up.
Really?
Well, maybe, here's a nice shot of the spirit board, and you can see that intimacy that the board leads you. Now, the board is just simply that. It's the alphabet. It's numbers up to 10. It's a yes and a no, and it's a goodbye. And that goodbye is extremely important in locking off the board and making sure that if you had any paranormal inklings, they weren't attached to you.
Just because you say goodbye to some people, sometimes that doesn't mean they're going to go away.
No, it doesn't mean that. Now, Parker Brothers in the end did pick up this franchise, but it started way back, as you said. That was the cover of the board we had at home.
Oh,
and
really?
That image of the board actually scared me as much as the notion of the board. I don't know what it was. Yeah. But that shadowy figure, there was not so much a ghost in a sheet. No. But felt like an elemental. Something out of, H.P. Lovecraft.
Did you even know what an elemental was back then?
No, but I had it inkling deep in my DNA that I was aware.
You felt it.
I was aware that there was something like that.
Yeah.
It's, it's incredible cover art. And, these original William Foyd, who actually stole the company in many ways in the 1800s from Kennard, who created the Novelty Company in about 1886, which was when it first got out there. I think when you think about it, psychography is the term used for spirit writing, automatic writing. Yeah. Long history dating back to that Song Dynasty. it was really in the 1840s, the late 1840s, that three sisters, the Fox sisters,
yes.
they
the
had
one
your
to blame.
classic haunted house and communication. They had the knocking on the walls and the doors. And they actually set up a code system using yes and no's to talk to who they thought was initially. And it's amazing this didn't carry through. They thought it was the devil initially, and it was termed Mr. Splitfoot.
Right,
the
yes.
Hooven.
Yeah, the hoof. Yeah.
Yes. And so, and they started to go out publicly. And that's where the board sort of, there were other ways of communicating with spirits that were similar to that. But that's when the notion of that board became incredibly solidified.
So those two girls, well, the three of them, the one of them was their manager, and the two were the act, if you want to call it that.
Well, it did actually turn out to an act because later on
they travelled and
they actually stated that they were fraudulent in their activities.
They did by clicking by I don't know. They must have had really. Loud knuckles, their toe knuckles.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound.
That's what a Ouija looks like today.
Yeah, right.
That's the modern configuration of it. You've got some interesting notes there. I think you should maybe.
Do you want me to read?
Yeah, give us a little read of that, and I'll line up some of the other.
So the Ouija mystifying oracle. It was 1891, and then it was purchased in 1966 by Who was it purchased by Parker Brothers?
That's right.
Yeah.
And Parker Brothers were actually developing it in Salem,
they were,
of all places.
Well, aside from Monopoly, this is likely the most famous board game of all time and is a natural starting point. Named in 1890 and patented in 1891 by Charles Kennard and Elijah Bond, the Ouija board has always been sold as a game. Initially manufactured by the Kennard Toy Novelty Company, Ouija operations are taken over by William Fuld.
That's right.
F-U-L-D.
And he had his name shoved all over that box.
In 1993, Fuld made the boards until 1966 when Parker Brothers bought Ouija for $1 million. By 1967, Parker Brothers was selling so many that management claimed they didn't have one to use.
Wow. I think they sold like literally 1 million in that year.
While the Fulds had sold around 400,000 boards per year, more than 2 million moved in 1967.
Wow.
And accounted for $6 million for Parker Brothers, reportedly surpassing even Monopoly sales for Parker Brothers. The company also ran radio adverts for the board, including one with a rock and roll beat and the "Hey Ouija, we need ya" catchphrase. In the late 60s, the company made 3 versions of the board, including a wooden edition. The game, initially suggested to be played by one male and one female, has its origins in spiritualists' talking boards, and some suggest it opens a portal to the other side.
Right.
When asked about the Ouija properties in 1967, Parker Brothers Vice President Randolph Barton told the Chicago Tribune, "We don't maintain that the Ouija board has supernatural powers, but there seems to be something mysterious about it all."
Totally.
The game is currently still in production and sold by Hasbro.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Especially where Hasbro started to take it. Now, look, there's some great little potted histories, and there's just an amazing array of people perceiving the notion of the board and where it sits in reality up there on YouTube. Check out Odd Histories. They do a great little potted history on it, but there are many other channels. But the board really didn't come into its sinister connotations till Freakin' did what would have been the blockbuster of the 70s that just burst this film. It must have been seen more than any other film in cinema at that time. Oh, it hit some resonance. Let's just take a little clip from that with this.
Hey, where'd this come from? I found it. Where? Closet. Huh. You been playing with it? Yep. You know how? I'll show you.
minute. You need truth.
No, you don't. I do it all the time.
Oh, yeah? Well, let's both play. You really don't want me to play, huh?
No, I do. Captain Howdy said no.
Captain who?
Captain Howdy.
Who's Captain Howdy?
You know, I make the questions and he does the answers.
Oh.
You got to
Yeah.
be careful when that starts happening. And, you know, that must have been a moment where that planchette moved on its own. And that would be the point I'd say, okay.
That's my red flag.
Yeah,
I would have
let's
picked
put
up the
that
whole
away.
thing and thrown it out the door.
Let's see how this was marketed.
You're moving it. No, I'm not. You're moving it. You're moving it. Would you just quiet? I'm trying to concentrate here. And I'm not moving it. You're moving it.
Yeah, and let's go and see what...
Is Jake gonna ask me to the dance?
How will I be when I
Get a car.
Good job.
go out with Adam?
Get a tattoo.
Eat bacon?
Got questions? Don't be left in the dark. New glow-in-the-dark Ouija.
Will my parents
Ever let me
Stay up past
10?
Come on. What do you want to know?
How about 9:30?
I still think it's quite astounding that this became such a popular item
Mm.
that was literally in everyone's home. And yet we were dealing in the macabre, the dangerous, the dark arts.
Well, I don't know if you want to call them the dark arts, but definitely things that we don't understand.
The turning of the millennium,
Mm.
finally,
Mm.
like Men in Black,
Mm.
the Ouija was exploited in the cinema.
Introducing Hasbro's Ouija.
Is that the one where you talk to ghosts?
It's actually pretty fun. Is there a spirit here?
Oh my god.
There are only 3 simple rules. Never play alone.
Spirit, can you hear me?
Never play in a graveyard.
We played in a graveyard.
And always say goodbye.
Good night, Romeo.
With Ouija, you'll make new friends.
Hi, friend.
Connect with the other soul. Experience the unknown.
And with a little practice,
Look, Mom, no hands.
you'll be an expert in no time.
It's fun for the whole family.
When's the best time to play Ouija?
Always.
That tickled.
Hasbro's Ouija.
Now, that is the second feature in a franchise that
Yeah.
is expanding rapidly.
Yeah, I know.
Even during the pandemic, I think there's now 7 Ouija films.
Yeah.
But the beauty of
And
that,
we actually watched that film last night.
we did.
We
And
watched
it
it.
was full of cliches, but it was most enjoyable.
Yeah.
Set in the 60s.
Set in 65. Yeah. Yeah.
But the incredible thing is,
I
what
love that as an ad.
as a trailer,
Yeah,
that
the trailer.
is
It's
superb.
brilliant.
And you know what? It harks to me to our great episode 40
Mm.
with the directors of Late Night with the Devil that has finally getting a theatrical release.
Yes, it's getting out there in the cinemas.
And
which is
has
awesome.
got out there on Shudder, and
Mhm.
we will screen to you before we end this podcast the extraordinary long trailer. We
Mhm.
actually had the teaser trailer.
Yep.
Let's now have a look at one of the foremost collections of Ouija boards in the world, and this couple are astounding,
Yeah.
although one of them feels not as blessed as the other.
I love Halloween.
This is a time of year when exterior decorators go all out.
We have a wreath that we haven't put up yet.
But you can't blame Bob Murch
It's nice to be toned down.
for a lackluster front porch.
It's very minimal.
He isn't going all out this year because he's gone all in.
Being the world's foremost collector or historian on Ouija boards, you don't always want people to know where you live.
Wait, what?
You're looking at over 125 years of Ouija history. This is some of the rarer boards in my collection and kind of out there in general.
One of the largest collections of Ouija boards in the country is right in our backyard.
I'm the chairman of the board at the Talking Board Historical Society.
Or rather in Bob's basement.
My mom is really proud.
Bob has spent the last 25 years collecting rare talking boards. There are dozens on display here.
And you'll see India represented, the Ouija board. We have the pink Ouija board. Some of the boards are a little bit religious. This board right here was artist inspired. Right on either side are 2 little devils, and it's the Ouija board. So it's for paranormal potheads.
And they're all in working order. We asked the board if Bob's husband appreciates all this stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty clear.
No. At first, I thought it was a hobby with maybe 1 or 2.
He has watched it go from 10 boards,
which turned into 20 and 50 and 100
to 500 boards to now over 1,000 different talking boards.
I like the hobby. It wasn't so expensive. I'd like to travel more.
Bob's obsession with Ouija is less about communicating with the other side.
This one right here is 1890.
He's obsessed with the history.
So talking to the dead in 1890 was seen as normal. So if you walked into a house and you saw a whole family playing the Ouija board, you'd think, cool, I'll saddle right up there and ask questions.
So how did we get to a point where we can remember Mom yelling at us for playing with these things?
In 1973, something very special happens, The Exorcist. Suddenly, this thing is potentially scary and dangerous.
Has it ever said anything strange to you?
No, I mean, it depends on what your level of strange is. I mean, my house is covered in Ouija board stuff, so I think my kind of bar for strange is maybe a little lower than yours. Some people think they're really spooky and scary. To me, they're pieces of art. They reflect pop culture. They tell the story of our comfort level with death. To other people, they're terrifying.
How do I find my way out of here?
Oh God, is it dark in here?
Because this came out of the fact that people's mortality was much earlier in the 50s. They would die in their 50s.
Wars.
The Civil War. They've always found that this thing actually sells tons more
when
in the midst of tragedy and calamity and fear.
Yeah.
So, and primarily then, you know, they were just seen as a way of reconnecting with ones that were gone too early. And it really was popular culture, again, paranormal popular culture, that took this thing into the realm of seeing it as an absolutely satanic item. Let's have a look at the only witch museum in the world, where Parker Brothers were producing this witch board, a Ouija, and that's in Salem.
The Salem Witch Board Museum in Massachusetts is the world's only Ouija museum. The Ouija board has become a notorious symbol of the paranormal, and the museum explores the board's unique history.
Joining us now is owner and curator John Kozik. John, good morning.
Good morning. How are you today? Thank you for having me.
Good to have you with us. How did the board start?
It started really being a homemade item between two spirit communication tools, an alphabet board where people pointed to a letter waiting for a knock, and an automatic writing planchette, which worked with a medium channeling a spirit through themselves and channeling a spirit whatever came through. And those two devices crossed paths just around post-Civil War.
And the interest, I didn't know this is the only game that outsold Monopoly at one point.
It is. Parker Brothers here in Salem bought the brand in '66, and they paid $1 million for it, the most ever paid for a game at that point. The very first year it outsold Monopoly, 1 million boards sold.
Wow. And I doubt, you know, the gates to hell go through Parker Brothers, but did it hit like its peak in popularity because of the marketing?
It hit a lot of, it has its ups and downs. It goes up during any time of war, any time of uncertainty. That's certainly when it's the most popular. But even at times like now, unfortunately, with people passing away because of COVID, I think these boards are still popular.
I didn't realize there were so many variations of it, and people send them to you. Do some people send it because they're freaked out and they don't want it in their house?
Exactly. There's at least 4 boards in the museum currently that were donated because the previous owners had a bad experience with them.
And there are some Chicago connections to the Ouija board. What are they?
There's a lot of Chicago, probably World War II, which is most of the boards you're seeing on the wall behind me here. Half of them were made in Chicago. So at least 24 manufacturers, different manufacturers, Giftcraft, Hasco, Lee, were just some of them making boards in World War II.
So your interest in this started with your grandmother who used to do it, but is it true that you've never used a Ouija board yourself?
That's true. It doesn't work for me the way it did for her. She flew on the board. She was very fast and would yell out letters and numbers quicker than anyone could write them down. But unfortunately, it does not work the same for me. So I'm waiting to use it now with my friend who has a lot of experience with it, and I feel most confident it'll work with her.
Well, wait, do you believe that your grandmother was manipulating the cursor, or what? I mean, when you say it doesn't work for you, what do you mean?
I mean, you influence the board quite a bit. Different beliefs or superstitions that you might have are going to make it work differently than somebody else. And for me, just being so concerned that it's not going to work at all, like it did for her, just makes me nervous that I'm going to influence the board to not work for me.
Interesting. Well, for more, you can go to the Salem Witchboard Museum and check out their website and follow them on social media. Thanks, John. Appreciate you joining us.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Now that is so fascinating, and it's just astounding the ubiquitous nature of a Ouija. And there were other manifestations of a Ouija and let's have a look at one of them now. And you can give us a little bit of background history.
Mm-hmm.
It is Kreskin's ESP game,
Okay,
which was similar based. And Kreskin was a bit of a character, wasn't he? A bit of a well-known figure.
Yeah, he was. So Kreskin's ESP, 1967. Extrasensory perception is the ability to send or receive thoughts using only your mind to do so. Do you have this supernatural power? Kreskin, the world's foremost authority on ESP, thinks you do. You need only to develop it. This fascinating ESP game shows how imagine the fun alone or with a friend or with a whole party of people. Players can reveal their innermost thoughts on love, politics, or any other subject. Kreskin's ESP game will give you the opportunity to reveal your ESP powers and explore the outer frontiers of the human mind in 2 scientifically proven ways.
Wow.
Yeah. Similar to an Ouija board, this game includes several tricks and a magic pendulum, which can be used to determine answers to yes, no questions, and even spell out words from correspondence. So this is correspondence from Kreskin, or with Kreskin, in December 2010. He wrote back, regarding your inquiry into the Kreskin ESP game, yours truly designed the game. As far as the artwork for the box, the Milton Bradley people had their staff do that. At one point, the amount of sales was over 1 million, and it approached 2 million. Thank you for your interest about the game. It became a very popular showcase as I played it with many people on television, including Johnny Carson, Mike Douglas, and Merv Griffin, as the pendulum proved to be a fascinating phenomenon. With all my best thoughts, Kreskin.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Kreskin was writing out there, I'd say just around the same time that Uri Geller was about to appear.
Exactly.
So he was like the proto Uri Geller. Let's have a look at a little trailer for this incredible board game.
This is Kreskin, an expert on ESP. ESP, extrasensory perception, mind over matter. Now Kreskin and Milton Bradley have devised a game about ESP. Kreskin's ESP. With Kreskin's ESP, you may reveal your feelings on love, on finance, on career, on travel, and other fascinating subjects.
It says yes.
What results would you find with Kreskin's ESP? You can spell out names and words, guess ages, play lie detector, and more. Play Kreskin's ESP.
And there's your classic like dowsing.
Yeah.
You know, that whole thing of like being able to create that pendulum that actually works in that prophetic way. Anyway, so, you know, the fascinating thing about a Ouija and then going on to the ESP game there is that there's something certainly there. And around the turn of the century, especially in Europe, there are all sorts of things going on that we would not even accept today. There were mummy unwrapping parties.
Oh, yes, yeah.
There was
only for the rich.
There were tables.
You couldn't be poor and unwrap a mummy because you had to buy the mummy.
There were table tilting parties.
Yes.
People were actually levitating tables.
were.
And then we actually replicated that Philip
The Philip
experiment, which
experiment,
has
yeah.
nothing to do with, because you won't allow an Ouija board in the house.
Well, I'd rather not.
Yeah.
Let's
so
not tempt
the
fate.
Philip experiment is utilizing this notion of a false entity that you create.
Mm-hmm.
And that was created by an incredible parapsychological group in the 70s. And it was studied in a peer review sense.
That's right. Yeah.
And we've actually had Fly TV here, one of the early digital networks associated with the ABC in this country. And they filmed a table that you were on that was tilting, and you're yawning now.
Sorry.
A table that was tilting and
I'm
doing
not
extraordinary
bored.
things.
Yeah.
And we can actually hear the wood inside that table.
Turning. Yeah,
so we know that table levitation is a possibility.
Sure.
Is it a latent power inside all of us that it has to come together in unison?
Oh, maybe.
Remember
maybe.
Light as a Board?
Yeah.
Where you
I
would
know.
actually
Yeah.
people-
Pick kids
Now,
up.
if you've got 4 people that totally believe that, then something
they were able
occurs.
to lift a whole body. It was weird. They used to do that at school. I think when you're a child and you haven't been told yet
paradigms or
that
preconceptions.
you're going to do that one there.
Okay, Mystic Skull.
Okay. Yeah, that you can actually do it. Okay, so here we go. The next game.
Now, this is starting to get really dark, isn't it?
Mystic
That they're actually
Skull.
selling these things
Well,
to kids.
these
Thank
are
you,
the-
Ideal.
Exactly. So, Mystic Skull, the game of voodoo. This was brought out in 1964. So, imagine yourself a witch doctor who can cast a hex. Each witch doctor tries to fill his opponent's voodoo doll with pins while trying to keep his own from being filled. By stirring the cauldron with the bone, the mysterious moving mystic skull will magically stop at the various voodoo segments around the board, directing you to place pins in your opponent's voodoo doll or to exchange one of your tokens in order to remove pins from your own doll.
Wow.
Players should use their tokens wisely and to their best advantage. They may have a player eliminate an opponent or save himself, but when a player uses his tokens up, he is at the mercy of the other players. When a player's doll is filled with pins, he is considered to be under a spell and is out of the game. The last player whose doll still has empty pinholes in it is the winner.
Now, I'd be worried that games like this were given to Jeffrey Dahmer when he was a child, because, I mean, we're really getting into some wild territory here, aren't we?
Well, not really, because most kids, back in, in the 60s played these games, and we didn't have that many Jeffrey Dahmers back then.
No, we didn't. And really the serial killer.
So maybe he needed to play and get all that weird stuff out in the game instead of actually going out and collecting real life
focusing on
skulls.
animals and people.
All
right.
Exactly.
Should we go to voodoo next? Which sort of,
no,
I mean,
the
look
next
at that
no,
one.
no.
That
Let me. Okay.
Let's do
Voodoo doll.
Yeah.
So voodoo.
This is frightening. This
voodoo
is like
doll.
a payback.
Yeah. Did you get the rest of them? Voodoo doll. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So voodoo doll, 1967.
Great
Hey,
year.
it's a voodoo doll game for boys and girls. That's the way it's got it on the board. You can see it there. It's marketed to the kids.
I need to find one of these. What an astounding
Hang
item.
on. As opposed to Mystic Skull, which encouraged pinning an opponent, this shaper game is based on torturing some nameless soul.
Oh my God.
The goal, like some reserve dark magic version of Operation, is to stick pins in a doll mounted on the board. Players keep pushing pins into the doll until the loser hits a trigger that unleashes a witch doctor figure from his plastic hut. I still can't figure out why the ogre lady on the box, who is the basis for the doll in the game, is offering up pins for the players to stick. You'd think she might want to hide those suckers.
Or maybe she's very generous, so she wants to spread the notion of voodoo.
Yeah. Anyway,
wow.
so that's the voodoo doll game.
Astounding.
Now, also in 1967, we had Ka-bala.
Oh, this is incredible, and boy, do I wish to own this. Look at the artwork
that
on this
artwork
box.
is amazing.
And it glows in the dark, and there's the evil eye, Miss Death.
Well, I don't know if it's the evil eye.
Using your stage name.
Okay,
there.
well, Miss Death today, maybe. Okay.
Okay.
the mysterious game that foretells the future. Wow. Okay, if there was a contest for the weirdest talking board of all time, Ka-bala, the mysterious game that foretells the future, would win unequivocally. From the eerie green glow in the dark board to the smashed dragon impaled by the eye of Zohar, Ka-bala gives new meaning to the word bizarre. You and a partner are instructed to start the game with the chant Pax, Sax, Sarax.
All right, don't do all of that chant. I don't want something opening up
Nostra.
here.
I've done it now. I've unleashed it. It's unleashed.
Unleash the beast.
Anyway, from this point on, anything can happen as the two of you, with your hands on the solari projector, roll a black marble around the channel that circles the board and wait for it to come to rest at one of the many symbols. Depending on the astral plane chosen, the future is revealed by letters and numbers like a talking board, or by tarot cards placed in specially designed wells, or astrologically by the zodiac conveniently spelled out in bas relief around the perimeter of the board. Care must be taken not to get too carried away as you play, since the black marble has a tendency to leave the channel and fly across the room like a bullet.
Oh my God.
Did I mention that the eye of Zohar follows your every move? The instruction sheet that comes with Ka-bala is especially helpful. All the rules are presented in great detail, along with the sage advice that the lights must be on in order to read the tarot cards. The cartoon below appeared in comic books.
Okay, so
yep.
I don't think that cartoon below reference we need.
No.
But
anyway,
I'm thinking, I wonder if Madonna had one of these when she's gorgeous, because she became obsessed with the Ka-bala.
I don't think it's that Ka-bala.
No, it's not that Ka-bala. Should we do Seance next? I mean, this is an odd freaking
Seance
board
is
game.
next.
Seance
came.
All this is for children.
Yeah. Seance came in 1972. Your dear Uncle Everett has died in this rare board game from Milton Bradley. According to the directions, Everett is a spiritualist. He believed his spirit would return from the grave to guide the distribution of his wealth.
Wow.
Although he left the bulk of his estate to his parrot players, his niece and nephews, of course, gather in his creepy Victorian mansion to hold a seance and bid on his remaining possessions of unknown value. Everett's ghostly voice emanates from an actual record player hidden inside the seance table. When everything has been brought, Uncle Everett reveals how much each item is worth and how much each player owns in taxes.
Even in death.
The player with the most money wins. When the game is over and the room is plunged into darkness, the instructions read, "It is said that the image of Uncle Everett may be seen."
Wow.
Now, I don't know. I haven't played this game. Pop it back up.
Yeah.
But the tape recording is the tape recording, right? So everything is worth whatever. So once you've played it the first time,
come play it again.
Well, you already know what things are worth. So you're going to go and bid on things that are really expensive so you can win.
Yeah.
So so it's sort of like,
now
you know what I mean?
Here is the game.
Hang on. What are you? Yeah. No. Yep.
You told me to move through this as rapidly as we can.
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to go to the Ghost Train next?
Ghost Train.
Okay.
1972.
All right. Well, this evokes for Australians, especially Sydney-sided, this evokes trouble.
In the 70s? Was it 73?
Yeah, I think it was 78.
78. Okay. All right. So Ghost Train came out in 1974. Based on the classic Ghost Train Dark Carnival ride, this game simulates the experience by including sudden and jolting changes in direction, dead stops, getting stuck, and mechanical ghosts. In keeping fingers crossed for the expansion pack, where you have to buy tickets, wait in line, and exit the ride feeling like you got seriously ripped off. Anyway, so of course, we had the ghost train ride fires at Luna Park here.
Yeah, Luna Park, and now
Sydney,
let's just
Australia.
check if we can see a date there. There's the Sun newspaper that's deceased. There was this incredible occult connection. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I
Because
do.
one of the boys that actually died in that fire was photographed at Circular Quay with this masked man on the day
Ooh, looks like a
prior
witch
to
doctor-
that.
witch
And that's
doctor.
really weird. This person appeared out of nowhere, and this still remains an incredibly weird enigma
Okay.
in Australian culture.
Yeah.
And you can see there, Death Blaze occult link.
Yeah.
So there's a weird little Australian Sydney-based
There's
bit
actually
of a
an
factoid to the
interesting.
ghost train.
There's an interesting. I think it was on the ABC. They did a ghost investigation into that ghost
Yeah,
fire
it
and
looks like
found
it
there
was
was something.
arson. Yeah.
with
organised crime here in Sydney.
Anyway,
Yeah,
so, yeah.
Don't think that you're the only ones with a tenure on organised crime there in the US. We've got it as well. Okay, are we going to Ghost Castle next?
Well, no.
Oh, no. We should stick on the paranormal theme till we get to the...
Okay.
So
all
let's
right,
go to
so-
Witch.
Ghost Castle.
Which is Ghost Castle. And now this astounds me.
This
and
is a weird one, this one.
Primarily England, they're obsessed with this.
They are.
People pay a fortune for it on eBay.
Mm.
And this game has kept coming back under different configurations. Eventually it was called Ghost Castle.
Okay, so Ghost Castle, 1985. You may remember this fiendish game with suspense as Witch, Haunted House, and The Real Ghostbusters.
So numerous names.
But they were all the same game, just differently, branded differently. The game was a 3D board game with a mousetrap style twist.
That was what was so exciting about it.
Yeah, the game consisted of 4 different rooms and a tower at the center. The aim was to be the first to reach the top. Each room had traps that would be randomly triggered when a card was drawn. Upon pulling out the whammy card, a skull was dropped down on the chimney. Dropped down the chimney, and it would pop out of one of the 4 holes. If your player was unlucky, the room's trap would be triggered, sending your playing piece flying, and you'd be forced to retreat to the beginning of that
How
room.
sad.
The wonderful artwork of each of the rooms and the spooky glow in the dark skull made it really spooky but fun game. Players had to collect ghost cards and avoid traps as they made their way up the stairs to close the coffin lid and lay the ghost.
So I never got into Witch or Ghost Castle, but I did get into this, Aspasia. We owned a copy of this in our house.
All right, the green
and that
ghost game.
again was, illuminated, not as strongly as you'd like it to be.
Yeah.
But it was an incredibly kitschy, kooky little game.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we've got any information on this one.
I don't have any information on
There's
the
not
green
much
ghost.
to it, really.
I think it was the first ever glow in the dark game.
That's right.
Apparently,
you
that's
remember
what,
that
yeah.
beautifully.
That's what.
And it's still such. I mean, look at it.
Yeah.
It was just an astounding thing to play.
I didn't have. We never played any board games in our house. We never had one single board game.
Oh my God, you were so neglected. We've got
No,
board
neglected.
games
We
in
just
the
had
archives.
we just had a different culture in our.
Should we have a little quick peek at the 40 nature of board games?
I was taught how to cook, wash, iron when I was young. I didn't play board
You're breaking my heart here.
That was fine. I can play games now, but I'm not going to learn how to cook iron.
So do you have any written info on this killer?
Okay, of course I do. Milton
Bigfoot,
Bradley,
the giant snow
Bigfoot
monster game.
So there was 2. There was one in 1977, and there was one in 1987. So that's the 87 one, I think.
Yes.
Yep. And the other one is the 1977. So the 77 one, Bigfoot, he of the infamous giant footprints, scored his own board game in 1977. A scarce find today. It's one of favorite monster-themed games. If this Bigfoot was meant to look friendly, the artist really missed the mark. He is clearly considering eating these children. Players select pawns, which appear to be mountaineers, explorers, or possibly Bigfoot hunters. The game track takes players through prime Bigfoot habitats, including snowy slopes and dense forests. A mining town, lumber mill, gold mine, and supply store appear to offer shelter. The pawns are moved according to the roll of the dice, but if they land on a Bigfoot space, a subsequent roll moves the monster a hefty plastic figure along the track. As Bigfoot crosses the lands on a pawn, he dispenses a disc which may or may not bear a footprint.
Right.
If the print appears, the pawn is out of the game. Last player left unstepped upon wins. Okay.
So it's again got to do with the tracks, the casts.
Yeah. They've got
and you go around, you actually punch
casts.
it with that Bigfoot. You punch those casts in.
That's right.
So
yeah,
I think Yeti virtually was the same board. And we've got a little bit of an unboxing. We'll have a look at that.
Yeah, that is
the
Yeti.
same board.
And this is
Bigfoot.
from the Netherlands. This one you can see it's
Thanks
Dutch.
to Milton Bradley.
It's a Dutch. So the 19 so the other one, the other game, the later one, the 87 is the Bigfoot game was a simple board game with an interesting twist. You play as an explorer following the footsteps of Bigfoot in the hope of finding the legendary beast. In the center of the board is a large plastic mountain, and at the very top, Bigfoot himself. As the players move around the board, they would eventually start to climb up the mountain. Each turn, Bigfoot would turn, and if Bigfoot ever saw an explorer on the mountain, he would kick down a boulder, knocking the players down and forced to start from the beginning. Whilst it sounds easy enough, pay in mind that you had 3 playing pieces and each one had to reach the top to win. It was actually quite a challenge and great fun.
Okay, well,
So,
these things can literally sell for tens of dollars on eBay
I know.
and online.
Well, yeah, I know the Bigfoot one, the first one, the 77 one.
Yeah,
I think it could go anywhere for I don't know. I think £80 or something in Britain and stuff.
That's
if
quite
you
a
find
bit
a
of
good
money.
one, yeah. So
I know that the original Ouijas and even the Parker Brothers ones can go up for major auction over $100.
I've never seen any
US.
of the
They're hard to
the
come across.
Yeti ones, yeah. Or the Bigfoot ones.
Let's quickly run through another 60s one, the Haunted House.
Haunted House.
That
one,
was
yeah.
a beautiful, again, like Mousetrap, similar, and we love those sorts of games.
Yeah.
Here's an odd game I came across. Released the same year that the features hit the drive-in.
Dawn of the Dead.
George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead game. So there's the zombie apocalypse
That'd be
as a board game.
Wow,
and that's
that'd
as
be
rare
really
as hell.
rare. Yeah.
What about this one, Miss Steph? This
What's
has
that?
a talking
Voice
mummy.
of the Mummy, yeah.
Voice of the Mummy.
Mm.
That could be very interesting. And then in the 90s, just at the end of sort of that major board game era, even though they're being made today, but you know what's taken off is CG gaming. It's
of
massive.
course.
It's bigger than anything else
Of course.
online.
I know.
And so the board game has been crippled because of that.
But you know what? Even though you can play with other people, online gaming is such a solitary thing because
and board games were about bringing the
and
whole
board games
family
were about
together
playing with-
for a major paranormal event.
Well, whatever, but any kind of board game was, playing games was about, playing with other people.
They started to do these things. Remember, they started to bring videotapes in,
Yeah,
and people would do narration, and
Yeah.
the motorized monster game, It from the Pit, and there it is, coming up from the pit to grab the proactive explorers.
Yeah.
And I guess, look, the whole of Fortiana,
Wow.
here's a recent
Cryptid.
board game, Cryptid. The whole of Fortiana and the
Mm.
Anomalous World has been covered many, many times
Mm.
in the notion of the family parlor game.
Yeah.
Which I just think is an astounding thing.
Oh, look, I tried. You know what? I've played games with board games with my with our grandchildren.
Yeah.
I cannot play with them.
Why? They're
They are
too
just-
competitive.
Oh my God, they are the
You're
worst.
competitive.
The 3 of us, really bad.
Okay.
It's tears, and I, as the grandmother, I should let one of them win, and we should let the little one win
But you
because he's the
fight.
younger.
You've got that
No,
competitive
there's no way I'm going to let them.
Mediterranean edge.
Absolutely, there's no way I'm going to
Right.
lose out to the
Let's
kids.
have a look at a couple.
Who's brave enough to play Ghost Castle? The victim's journey room by room. They take their chances. Along the way, anything can happen, and usually does. To win, you must reach the coffin and lay the ghost. Will anybody survive Ghost Castle from NB Games?
Yeah, that's a little suspicious about laying the ghost.
Ghost Castle. The ghost wants to trap you in his castle. Can you lead your team and escape? Beware. No. Many perils await. Only one team can make it out. Will you go the safer long way or risk falling into the ghost's clever traps? Find your way out and win. Ghost Castle.
And
I love that. And the mere fact, too, that these things would glow in the dark. I mean, just turning the lights off and getting into that paranormal activity as a child really laid
back
the path
then. It would have
for our arrested
people.
Development now.
Now it doesn't impress anybody.
Half man, half animal. He's Bigfoot, and a fortune awaits the first human being to capture him alive. And now you can join the hunt with the Bigfoot game. You track him through the dangerous jungle, over perilous mountains. Confound it! Even though you find his hiding place, he may not be there.
He must be here someplace.
The Bigfoot Game by Migo.
Love Migo, and thank you to Action King there for that grimy version of that ad. And that's a different Bigfoot. But doesn't that sum up all Bigfoot research? What we've learned so far from the incredible researchers here on Untold Radio is that this thing is an enigma. It doesn't matter how many times you play the game. It's not going to appear when you expect it to. And when it does, you're not going to have the equipment to document it. You know, so maybe let's just do a little song for the network, and we will be back with a couple of little small treats for you before we end our episode dedicated to the incredible Anton, who we named after Anton LaVey, who was more showman than shaman, the head of the Church of Satan in the 60s. But there was nothing evil about our cat whatsoever.
Oh, God, no.
He was a lover, not a fighter.
Turn up the dial, feel the vibe, get ready to ignite. Untold stories in the airways, flying through the night. Experience voices, tales so bold. Streaming live, the truth unfolds. Untold Radio Network, where secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, so I remember I share and subscribe. Join the side where truth can't hide. Aliens in the attic, UFOs in the sky. Cryptids lurking, oh my, oh my. Ghosts in the hallway, whispering your name. The paranormal, the unexplained. Become a VIP, get the inside scoop. Unlock the mysteries, be part of the group. Live streaming stories, they're talking to you. Super chats buzzing, join the crew. Untold Radio Network, where secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, it's a wild member. Share and subscribe, join the side where truth can hide. So if you've got the guts and you want to explore, tune into the Untold, it's what you're looking for. From aliens to ghosts and all that's unseen. Untold Radio Network, where the world's mysteries convene.
Man, what can you say?
Well, it's
after
growing
that,
on me
that
like a
tune?
parasite.
It's becoming an earworm. You know what? I want to have a word to Mike Patton, Dave Lombardo there. Trevor Dunn. Let's get Mr. Bungle to cover that thing and take it somewhere else.
Somewhere else. Anyway.
Look, you know, we wish to apologize to each and every one. This is our episode when we're in grief. We need to get John Ayers on, and hopefully next week. We need to say thank you to Malcolm, Alex, Nexium, Catherine Four Feathers. There are so many great people who have supported this station. Charlotte is astounding.
Uncle
Nancy,
Bones.
Uncle Bones too.
Yeah.
I mean, the
John
list
Ayres,
just never ends. And we adore those people, and we've learned so much from being part of this network. We're honoured to be. We hope we haven't given it its booby episode, its booby prize episode.
No.
You know, with this one. Hey, this game we own.
Your course is set to faraway ports, accessible only across the forbidding lime green waters of the Bermuda Triangle and its sinister, unforgiving mystery cloud. Even the ports along the way are not safe. Can you beat the unknown? Can you save at least some of your fleet? Can you make it home with your cargo? This is the Bermuda Triangle from MB Games. For some, just a game. For others...
Just a game. For others, it is.
Yeah.
The end of the line. Well, episode 40 of Untold Radio, I can't believe it was that long ago.
Yeah.
We got two maverick brothers that are horror film directors who did the most marvelous job. And in many ways, it harks back to that Hasbro parody trailer for Ouija, the origin of evil. And it is the extraordinary film Late Night with the Devil. It's getting a cinema release.
Yes.
It's being streamed by Shudder. Please check this film out. It is monumental.
We are back in 5, 4. Now, here's Mr. Midnight, Jack Darrow.
Oh, good evening, Night Owls, and thank you for allowing me into your living rooms once again. Night Owls, we've got a heck of a show in store for you tonight, and I'm very excited for you to see it all unfold before your very eyes. I really hope you love it. Gosh, I hope you love it. Please love it. Love it.
I'm trying to host a nationally syndicated talk show, and I'm trying to help you keep it on the air.
We all know how important it is to keep our sponsors and affiliates happy, but in my humble opinion, there is only one person who really matters in this whole darn crazy business. And that is you, our viewer.
You're meddling with things you don't understand.
Whoa! Now, as you know, here on Night Owls, we think it's very important to keep an open mind. Please welcome Dr. June Ross Mitchell and Lily, the young subject of the book, Conversations with the Devil.
I really don't think it's a good idea, Jack. She's becoming more unpredictable.
That's a good thing. That's why we still do live TV.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for a live television first, as we attempt to commune with the devil.
Lily, can you hear me?
Good to see you again, Jack.
Lily, return to me.
This isn't about ratings anymore. No one's going anywhere.
How could you let it happen, Jack? How could you let it happen?
Please be warned, anyone with young children in the room.
Go to commercial! Go to commercial!
What you're about to see.
You okay, Jack?
Is profoundly disturbing and shocking.
You get out there, Mr. Midnight. And you knock him dead.
There you go. In cinemas, April the 11th. And Kevin Smith, that is so true. It's Rosemary's Baby meets Network on a darker night in the back of a TV studio during a live entertainment program. You have been on Down South Anomalies. This is episode 74, Paranormal Child's Play. I hope you've enjoyed it. It was dedicated to our late but great, extraordinary companion of over 19 years in our archives. He was really suffering that hostage syndrome, wasn't he?
No, we were the hostages.
We were. He held us at
Pandering to
bay.
him.
But his endless affection
Yes.
and interest in the amount of people he scared during screenings in this building makes his life immemorial to us. It's just astounding. We just adore that cat, and hopefully his spirit will always be part of our lives and this building. Like that final episode of Medium when they walk off into the sunset with their
With the
animals
pets.
and children. That's what I want to see you and I do. Walk off into that Sunset with Anton.
Mm.
Again, let's thank everyone that's here supporting us, listening on audio and visual. If you are on audio, go to YouTube, check it out, or go to Facebook. Thank you to all our colleagues at Untold Radio. Thank you, Aspasia,
Thank
for
you.
being so gorgeous
Thank you,
as
Jay.
always.
Yep.
And let's get ready to just say goodnight. You were just about
I
to
was
end it
just about
without
end-
the end
without the
credits there. I
ending.
love that. I love that.
Anyway,
We
so
are
good.
the wild cards of
I don't
Untold
know.
Radio.
All right. We'll be back next week with
Hopefully an
with
interview.
John. Yeah.
Hopefully with John the Wrenchman.
That'd be
Let's
great.
see how
That'd
we
be really
go.
good. But we'll
All
see
right.
what happens, because
Have a-
sometimes life gets in the way of your
gets in the way.
plans. Anyway,
Take care. Be safe. And remember, every second counts. You will all know in your heart of hearts that the greatest stuff will come to you through kindness and understanding.
absolutely.
So
Every
let's put a
time.
little bit of love out there and you'll get tons of it returned. Take care, and we'll see you all next week.